Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be doing my first video post the ban list that comes into effect on January 1st, and as you can see by the screen it will be an Orcust profile because Harp Horror has been released, which is exciting, though I think the general consensus is that Orcust is probably not going to do a whole lot. The deck is fairly flawed. It's certainly not got the, I guess it probably doesn't have the ceiling that a lot of the other meta decks does. It definitely has the grind game, but it is certainly probably not up to scratch with the meta decks, but I know that certainly there will be people that will try, myself included. I've got a few variations that I'd like to kind of experiment with and test out, but this one is the kind of really just focusing on the Orcust cards themselves and being able to combo with the Orcust cards. One thing I think would be fun to do, but again, not sure how competitively viable it would be to actually go back to the days where we were using the Orcust cards to set 2 Fog Blades by going into Rusty as well, but we're not doing that in this video. Today we have 3 Gear Suit and 2 Scrap Recyclers as our kind of main normal summon of choice. There is a world where you could even get rid of the Scrap Recyclers just due to the engines that I'm playing and just play the 3 Gear Suit, so that's a consideration you could definitely make, is to cut them. And then what I'm actually doing with the Orcust cards themselves is just playing them all at one. Now that does create some issues in that, if you don't manage your resources well, then they're gone. But I'm going one of each, so Nightmare, Harp, Symbol, Brass, and Wand. The idea being that if you draw any one of them and you can still combo, then Brass is going to be the thing that you can kind of send to get the clogged one out of the hand and be able to continue playing, which is nice. We're also playing the 1 Gizmek and the 1 Foolish Burial. Then we also have the kind of main Orcust spell traps being Return, Babble, and Crescendo. I do find myself going for Babble probably more consistently than Crescendo, but there definitely would be instances where you could go Crescendo first, maybe in like a game 2-3 situation where maybe your opponent's siding in Bestials, for example, then Crescendo's probably a better hit than Babble potentially, but yeah. That's the Orcust cards. So like I said, I've gone down to one of each of the Orcust cards only because they essentially do nothing in the hand themselves, so we don't really want to draw them, rather have them in the deck. But then the reason why we could also kind of maybe cut the Scrap Recyclers is consistency-wise, we've got a big boost with the Superheavy Samurais being Wakashi and Motorbike, so it gives us 6 more copies of Gearsu. So between those 6 there and the 3 Gearsu and then now the 2 Scrap Recyclers, there's heaps of access to your engine. Playing the 2 bad cards being Benkei and Soul Guide Booster, and we're playing 1 Regulus because I've explained this in a previous video, but generally speaking, when I'm playing the Super Heavies, especially when I'm playing an engine that doesn't necessarily benefit from the synchro summoning aspect of things, I like to go for Regulus with Merrymaker and the Sargus, only because it's it's easier to kind of make and access. You can only really access like the Baron line with the Super Heavies if it's Jet specifically, not Wakashi, whereas with the Wakashi you can do both. Alongside the Super Heavy Samurais, I'm playing a small Horus engine, being 3 Imseti, 1 Happy, and 2 King Sarcophagus. This just gives us more capacity to get cards out of the hand and into the graveyard. And then the last 12 spots are non-engine, so I believe the deck is 41 cards. It might be 42, you'd have to count that, but Fenrir, Ash, Veiler, because we're playing with the Super Heavy, so we do have to kind of predominantly focus on monsters, but then we can kind of get away with talents, because if the Samurais bait anything, then the talents become live, and we are happy days from there. So 12 non-engine spots, though, as I said, there's a world where you could certainly cut the Scrap Recyclers and maybe fit in another non-engine card being like a Nibiru, for example, a Droll. They would certainly be okay options. Then for the extra deck, there's a lot of things that you can play. The extra deck is tight, but then like it's not at the same time. There's a lot of things you could play that I've just opted not to, but Orcust-wise, we've got 2 Galatea, 1 Mongisu. Boral Sword plus Dingisu closes out games really nicely from, back in the day. SP, IP, and Linkaribo for the links. Then Xyz monsters, we've got double Dingisu, Zeus and Typhon. We've got Zombie, Vampire, and Sargus. They work really nicely with the Horus cards, of course, but Merrymaker ties the Horus and the Super Heavies together, which is really nice. And the last spot being the Gear, Gig, and X. So there's probably still some flex spots. I mean, you don't really have to play Boral Sword. You could probably amass enough damage with the Horus monsters, probably not necessary. Zeus and Typhon, between those, like they're potentially flex spots as well. I'm not playing like the Galaxy Ice Photon Lord, as I don't own a copy, but that could definitely be something you put into the extra deck as well, just to kind of really help ensure that your the Gearsu goes resolved. But I'm doing Sargus instead. So generally I'm discarding a machine at some point and using the Sargus to search Regulus, which gives me the negation to protect the Gearsu from resolving there as well. But I'll go into some test hands just to kind of show you what the deck is aiming to do. Okay, so for our first test hand, we have Wakashi, which is a pretty good start. Fenrir, Babel, Gearsu, and Vela. So the consideration here is that we will play into the Nibiru with what we have here, and this is my other little gripe with the Samurai engine here, is that the Wakashi, if you have, like, for example, open Wakashi and Gearsu, it makes sense to go for the Merrymaker, Sargus, grab Regulus, except nowhere along the line do you put a machine in the graveyard, which means that you can't actually get the Regulus online before you do the Gearsu thing, and there's no other way to do it with the only other way we can make Wakashi protect Gearsu is if we play a heavier super heavy lineup, which I don't really want to do. So it's just a consideration to make. You would like to draw the Horus engine maybe alongside that too, to help trying to put the machines in the graveyard. But that is just something to keep in mind, is that when it's Wakashi specifically and Gearsu, the Wakashi's not going to be able to protect the Gearsu, which you'll see now anyway, but we can summon the Fenrir out. We're going to play into Nibiru with this regardless, so we'll go Wakashi. We're going to put the Brick Benkei into the scale and summon out. Then we'll use the Big Benkei to search for the Soul Gaia booster, which we can equip to Wakashi and summon to the field. Now, of course, we're going to go straight for the overlay into the Merrymaker, and then straight up into the Sargus. From here, we're going to use the Sargus effect and grab Regulus. Now, obviously, I probably could Nibiru us here, but I mean, doing that doesn't really do anything for them. The thing we could do with this specific interaction, because we did draw the Fenrir, is we can use the Fenrir now, because we would have been drawn already if the draw was present. But we can search our Fenrir, and now, and this is certainly what I would be doing in a game state, would actually just be to link off all of that and just put an IP onto the table, because from there, now we've got machines in the graveyard, so we can go for Regulus, equip one of our machines, doesn't really matter which one, and now we're very free to normal summon Gearsu and go from there. So Gearsu is going to send Harp, and this is the kind of the Orcust line that I tend to take. I've watched a few other people do kind of different things with their Orcust cards, but this is kind of, we'll put Babel on the field just because it will help if there's like a Bestial, for example, in the main deck. Do this before, it's only if you open the Babel, because now that they're all quick effects, if we were to go then normal summon, send Harp Horror, our opponent can't Bestial the Harp because we just chain it. But we will, and obviously when we activate it, it will banish its cost anyway. So we'll banish the Harp, and we will use it to summon out the Nightmare. And we're going to link it away with our Gearsu to summon Galatea. We're going to then use Nightmare. We're going to banish it to send the Wand. So this I guess little variation, or not a variation, but like sequence of events will keep the symbol in the deck, which means that we can kind of use it to summon Ding on our opponent's turn at a point where it's not as bestialable. I mean, obviously the opponent can just bestial the Dingus. It's probably a moot point, but it's just how we're going to do it. But we're going to go Wand. We can summon back Harp, just to kind of keep it into rotation. And then we can obviously use Galatea. We'll get rid of the Wand. And we're going to set Crescendo in this instant because we already have the Babel. Then we will go up into Dingirsu, use the Dingirsu effect to equip the Nightmare. And now, because we've gone for this Crescendo line, we're going to link these two into the second Galatea. Depending on, I guess, what we could have done there is we could have linked into SP and had that sit on the field. It means that our IP doesn't really do a whole lot. I mean, the IP can go into Longirsu, which isn't terrible. That's another consideration for the extra deck, is to play like one other thing that you could IP into. I mean, if you IP into Boral Sword, it is going to kind of just stick around. It's a nuisance. Or you could play like an Underworld Goddess, for example, or a Nightmare Unicorn. There's a few other things you could opt to play in the extra deck. I'm playing a lot of Xyz monsters. You probably don't need all of them necessarily, but yeah, having IP into, if we weren't going for Crescendo, like obviously we can just IP into SP and that's really strong. But leaving it there, we have the Crescendo, we have the regulars, we've got IP into SP. Then we've got, on our opponent's turn, well, this is obviously talking about the opponent's turn, we've got Nightmare to send Symbol. We've got Harp to, summon out a Girsu, for example, if that's what we want to do. But and the Symbol can summon out the Ding to send something to the graveyard as well. So pretty decent first test hand there. But let's see if we can kind of keep that up, because I know that my most recent one, the Buster Blader deck profile, was not as consistent. So consistency is what we want. That way we can kind of get a good showing of how the deck would perform. But that's kind of what we're aiming to achieve. You can kind of see how the Samurais work with the Orcust engine. You didn't see the Horus cards there. The Horus cards can be used for Zombie Vampire, but obviously we could also use the Horus cards to, make a Raincade that helps protect, like Sargus. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And as I was talking about consistency, there we go. There's an awful hand. Not doing anything with that. Yeah, that's useless. Wand, Symbol, Harp, Foolish Burial, and Girsu. So a hand full of Orcust cards. Let's see how we go with this one, only because we've opened up a lot of one-of, so like the Nightmare can't really do a whole lot. The Brass Bombard's going to come into play here, but potentially we don't even normal summon the Girsu, just looking at this, because Foolish Burial's already going to do the job. Like, we've got all of the targets in hand, all the one-ofs. So Foolish Burial for like Nightmare into Brass Bombard is probably really good. Having the Wand in hand is also fairly unfortunate. Harp Horror can't actually really summon anything at this point except the Nightmare and the Brass, but the only way to get the second body on the field, we could use Girsu to do that. So Girsu is going to give us an extra. We'll start with the Girsu, because we can also Foolish Burial for the Gizmek as an extra body, but we'll use Girsu to send the Nightmare. Also just conscious of having like the body for Harp, but we'll see. Do we want to send the Nightmare, or would you rather wait? No, we'll send the Nightmare, that's fine. We'll use the Girsu effect to get a token. We're just going to use the token immediately to make the Link Karibo. Okay, so from here, and this is where maybe playing like a Barricade Board Blocker, again, could be a useful thing, or just more access to the Horus cards. This is going to happen though from time to time, but we'll see if we can kind of play our way out of it. So from here, we can use the Nightmare to send Brass Bombard. And actually, thinking back to a second ago, we'll just use Gears to straight send Brass Bombard. We'll keep the Nightmare in deck, because then we can banish the Brass to summon out Harp. That way Harp can generate us a body as well. So just looking at our extra deck, we don't really have any ways to just discard cards, which is potentially a flaw in the deck building process here, but that's okay. We'll keep going. So we'll go Harp and Linkuriboh into Galatea. We'll put back the Brass, because we still have Foolish Burial for Nightmare, which doesn't do anything for us at this moment. But we'll put back Brass. I want to say we're going to get Return here, but yeah, I think Return's probably just the way to go for this one. Only we're not going to be able to get up Babel or Crescendo, which means like interruption wise we're going to be relying on our monsters or drawing something really good out of Return here, but I think this is probably the way we're going to have to go. Do we want to send the symbol or the wand? It's probably the symbol. Yes, we'll activate the Return straight away. We'll get rid of the symbol and we'll draw 2. Oh, well, there you go. It's just that easy. We'll just draw the Babel. Now, obviously having the wand, there's not really any way to get it out of the hand at this point, but that's okay. We can go Harp now for Nightmare. And this is just I guess, helping to build a bit of a board presence here. Probably should just activate that straight away. But we've got symbol as a body, but I think we're fine just to leave it in the graveyard. Let's think. We'll go Nightmare and Girsu. We'll go straight into we can go into SP Little Knight here. If we symbol, we can bring back something, which we're just going to bring back as a body, because now we can go for Dingirsu, equip symbol, and then we could link into IP Masquerena. The only issue with IP here is, yeah, we only really have Long Girsu as kind of the target because we've summoned the SP, but that's fine. We can go for Foolish Burial here and throw a Gizmek into the grave. Obviously didn't use Nightmare, so we could do that we could have done the Nightmare instead, but it's fine. We can kind of just leave it like this. Probably as good as it's going to get. Luckily we drew the Babel, that was nice. That was kind of a funny hand, but we still kind of got out of it a little way in one way or another. That's that one. And we'll do one more test hand. Let me know in the comments how you might have kind of played out of that one. If there was a better way. Dusting off the Orcust cobwebs a little bit here. Okay, and for our last test hand, we will have talents. Ash, Imseti, Girsu, and Scrap Recycler. Okay, well, this is going to work out really nicely to kind of show off the Horus stuff, which we haven't seen yet. So what we can do is go for Imseti. We can pitch the Scrap Recycler. We don't need 2 normal summons in our hand. That will get us the King Sarcophagus, and then we get to draw a card as well. Good thing about the Imseti there is we, obviously by putting the Scrap Recycler into the graveyard, that's going to give us a target for the Regulus. Now, drawing the Wakashi there is interesting also. Let's activate King Sarcophagus. So we'll go through this kind of line first. Yeah, this is getting interesting. There's only so far we can go, but we can use the super heavy stuff just to kind of generate more bodies as well. Or we can use the 8s to... We could go zombie, vampire, but we don't really benefit too much. We've already got gear suit, but that's okay. We'll go Wakashi now. That's okay. We'll use Wakashi effect. Good gear gigan for the... No, that doesn't change anything. Playing a Baron would not be like the worst thing in the world in this extra as well, but again, it's all gonna come down to space and like what text you want to kind of play. Baron would be kind of nice with, you know, like the motorbike and like a Horus monster, but then you kind of have to play the Excel Stardust if you really want to kind of make the best use of it. We'll grab the Soul Guide booster with the Big Bankai, which we are free to equip and summon. And then from here we can choose what we kind of want to do. We may as well we'll go the Merrymaker line here. So we'll go Merrymaker, we'll go Sargus effects to grab Regulus. So this is all 4 summons. So the Regulus would be the 5th summon. So we have beaten Nibiru here. We can summon out the Regulus by equipping the Scrap Recycler. And then we have 3 in hand still. Our Gearsu is very safe to be normal summoned now. But we also have the Horus cards. And we can kind of think about what we want to do with the Horus cards. So again, extra space-wise, we could just use the Horus cards to make IP, which is fine. We could go straight into an SP, which is fine. We could make Zombie Vampire, but again, we don't really have to hit anything. And potentially the Zombie Vampire is the card that gets cut, maybe, if you were trying to think of other ways to play. But yeah, we haven't used the Horus cards. We haven't really needed to use them here either, but we can normal Gearsu, use its effect to send Harp Horror. And then now is obviously where we need to make a decision what we want to do with the Horus cards. We might just go straight into the IP with them. So we'll bring out the Imseti. We could use King Sarcophagus to... No, we'll just bring out the Imseti, it's fine. We won't get the Happy out of the deck here. We'll use Harp to summon Nightmare. And this is just going to look very similar to what the very first one looked like. Can take these, go for Galatea, use the Nightmare to send the Wand, use the Wand to bring back the Harp, then we can go for Dingirsu, and, oh sorry, gotta use the Galatea effect first. Put back Wand. Grab Babel. And then we can now go for Dingirsu, get Nightmare. And kind of just clean up the board here a little bit. So again, same thing, we could kind of just go IP, SP with what we have. There's also a world where we could like leave the Dingirsu on the field. So this is just an example. We could take the Harp and the Sargus and go into IP and leave it there. The Dingirsu then obviously protecting the IP, or I mean, even from leaving the IP there. The Dingirsu protects it from battle. Imseti is just there to be difficult to obviously if something gets outed, then we're again free to send a card our opponent controls. We still have the symbol line set up with IP, so we can go IP into SP pretty early on, and that gives us Nightmare to send symbol and bring out Dingirsu that way, or bring out Galatea and set the counter trap as well as another option. But yeah, and then we've got Harp in the graveyard still to summon something from deck later on. We can summon another Gearsu if we need to, kind of continue that way, with Regulus protecting and Ashen Talents in hand. So we'll leave that one there. This is just another kind of play style we can do, is just leave the Dingirsu on the field. We still get the SP Little Knight. The Dingirsu then is just protecting things from battle or card effect while it's sitting on the field. So again, like a Lightning Storm or anything like that, Dingirsu would protect. But otherwise, I'll leave that one there. That's it for this deck profile, and I'll be posting some other variations of Orcust in the future. But thanks for watching.